All right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN4. Brian Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. How we doing? Beautiful day here in Toronto.
Beautiful day, Hazy, and I'm going to wipe what happened today out of my memory, and I'm going to take the positive from it, and I'm going to turn it into the guys we played against, D-Mac and Sammy V. They're the chokers, and they should be ashamed. Them not beating us today,
Pathetic.
They should go look in the mirror.
Pathetic. It was a slash fest.
Oh,
it was horrendous.
Man. Dude, we were Dorf on golf in a cart today. It was
awful. The two of us a couple times, Noodles, we looked at each other and we're like, you suck. And the other guy's like, you suck.
Yeah.
Like,
awful.
Give me an idea. Like,
Dude, missing 3-foot putts, blowing golf balls out of bounds. It was there was like if we had tempers, Noodles, we just got in the car and we kind of drove on. We know not to really say anything, but there would have been snapped golf clubs in half.
Yeah.
There was like a 5-hole stretch where it was Dorf on golf. The guy that was kneeling on his shoes swinging a golf club.
It was
insanity.
All around. Contagious.
So did you guys – it's going bad for both of you. There was no, like, comments exchanged like –
well,
keep
dude,
it going, or like was there anything like
you never say that,
right?
like, hey,
that,
pal,
right?
keep your head up, or hey, pal, get him next hole. You just know that guy knows that he's got to get his you-know-what together. But we could have been buried and dead, but they couldn't putt. They putt worse than we did.
Yeah, they did because,
they could have destroyed us.
And it was contagious. We sucked them into the vortex for a few holes
were
chopping it all over the place, too. And D-Mac, who's a great guy, and he was hosting us, he missed a few putts he should have made that really could have iced us, and it just didn't happen, and we crawled back, and it was all good. And I left there this morning, and my day continued down that path. I had the most embarrassing thing happen that can happen in society, and I think we've all been there before. You guys know we're going through this reno at the house, and we're at the kind of end of the stages, and we're starting to put some pieces together, and we got these new chairs, and there's these certain like seat pads, I guess, that we're looking for the dining room chairs. We've been running all over the province basically looking for it. So I was popping into a HomeSense out by the Nash, and I go in there, and I'm walking around, and I know where I'm looking. I got an idea of what I'm looking for because we've been in like 4 of these stores, and we haven't been able to find the color and the style we're looking for. So I'm going up and down the aisles, and finally I stop with this woman, and I ask her, I go, excuse me, could you tell me where these, Nicole Miller seat cushions would be?
She says, I don't work here.
She looks at me and goes, I don't work here, and was so disgusted with me, and I was so embarrassed. And the worst part is I kept doing laps, and I kept running into her.
Oh, no.
And it's so embarrassing to do that to somebody. I don't know why.
Dude, I've had people come up to me, and they're like, hey, man, where are the Costco barbecues around here? And I'm like, dude, I'm polite about it. I'm like, you know what? I don't work here. I have no idea. Once you say that and put that face on, you make the person feel like garbage.
Wow.
Like when you say, excuse me, I don't work here.
Oh, she was not. She was bent out of shape. And it was an honest mistake because she was
Dude,
rummaging
I love
around.
HomeSense. You should be proud to work at HomeSense.
She was wearing a blue vest or something. Is it like, you go to a store, sometimes they have the
you go to Walmart, they all wear the blue vest. There was not. I thought it was like a black on black kind of thing, and a lot of rummaging. And I don't know why I picked up on that vibe. I just, I asked, and she was so bent out of shape, and I kept running into her, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I asked for some help. There's worse things I could have said, but it was so awkward. And then it was awkward for the rest of my time in there. And then I never found the things, and I just left. So it was a complete waste of time to begin with.
Dude, when that happens, when you do that, and then you don't find, because you found your things, it could have cheered you up a little bit.
Yes.
But when you run into her 3 more times, and she continues to hate your guts, and a couple of slash T-balls, you're literally going home with your tail between your legs.
Mortified. And here, let me add, here's the completion of my whole routine today. Like Dorf on golf, this is Dorf on life. Like everything about me is just a comedy show right now. Like I am just.
You're an ass clown.
I'm a clown, and I'm supplying humor to people. So I went and grabbed the bite after the home sense nonsense, and the owner recognizes me and, hey, how's it going? And on the way out, he goes, who's got the pick tonight? I go, actually, it's Hazenbro. He goes, you guys really need one, man. It's going bad for you. Like, starts giving me the chat about how ugly it is, our picks. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. Thank you. I'm living this. Like, I'm the one making the picks. So I'm getting sympathy, pity talk around the greater Toronto area about Hazenbro the way we're operating right now.
Wow.
That's how pathetic things are for me. That's how bad it is.
What are you guys down? 8? Are you down 8?
It's a lot of it's single digits, right? It's just
but high
single digit. It's
high single.
Yeah, it's still a one-score game though, right? Like we could punch one in and go for 2, and make this legitimate action by the end of the weekend. And the London series starts this weekend. They're playing on Saturday morning, so we're gonna have a bunch of games to play. And primetime Kirk Cousins again. Of course, it's primetime Kirk Cousins again tonight. Falcons, Bucks.
Here's
and we
my
got a
thing,
pick.
though. I've got one thing for you, Hayes, because tremendous information is coming out, and it's going to be ridiculous where Al's brother's going to say, well, it's a neutral site game, and this team, he'll have stats from neutral sites games and start times where it's really over here it's 11 a.m., but there it's 6 o'clock.
Oh,
like he's going to have something. You're going to have to power through that and not put the blinders on and choose the team that you feel your best gut instinct with.
Yes.
Because I think there's going to be a lot of nonsense that goes around this pick. You have to be confident in what you're doing. That's all I'm going to say.
I will do my best to be confident. We have to pick a winner. We've got to get off on the right foot week 5 tonight. So Luke and Al's brother coming up in an hour. Struddy will join us later this hour. We've got, the Amazon Prime stuff debuts tomorrow. And they've got the extended McDavid clip in the room.
Loved it.
It is pretty wild stuff. Like I'm a little surprised McDavid or the Oilers didn't say cut that out. Like I don't want this public because it's so raw.
Yeah.
And why don't we play it? This is after Game 2.
Yeah.
I believe of the Cup final. So they started in Florida. We know what happened. They're down 0-2. They're flying back. McDavid's all bent out of shape. There's a lot of cursing, so a lot of this has to be censored. But this is Connor McDavid in the room, down 2 Cup final.
Right now. Right now. Right now. Not ideal, but it's happened so many times. But that's not good enough. It's finals. Dig the in right now. Whatever the you have. That is not good enough. Let's go get one win at home. One win, and we'll see what happens. But dig the in.
So,
I got goosebumps. I love that.
Pretty
stuff,
heavy
that
stuff,
motion.
man. Pretty heavy stuff from McDavid.
That's a guy that desperately wants that Stanley Cup because for all the right reasons. He wants his team to win. And he understands to be part of the. Hey, as you mentioned it, the group of players, they all have championships. You know how badly he wants a championship. For all the right reasons, but there's that personal reason too. It's like, I want to get a Stanley Cup. And that's what you need, a bunch of guys that are dying to win it. And you can tell that guy's dying to win the Stanley Cup.
All I could think of watching that was how much it sucks they didn't complete that comeback.
Yeah.
Because that clip with a cup win turns into some of the coolest, most inspiring stuff we've ever seen in sports.
Yeah, legendary.
That takes on a life of its own. That's the flu game times 10. That's, all these different things, Tiger with the broken leg at the Open. Like, it would take on a life of its own that might be separate from anything we can ever recall in hockey history and maybe sports history because we could actually see it, right? Like everything else was, this guy gave a pep talk allegedly, or hey, folklore says this guy decided to do something different and that's why they won the game. You could look at that clip if they came back and won and said, look what this guy spurned on, and it just leads to more of a kind of sickening feeling for McDavid, the Oilers, and Oiler fans that they didn't close. they were right there. Like they he's that pissed off at 2-0. I'd love to hear the tape after 3-0. Maybe he was just completely defeated after that. I don't know.
Oh, maybe it's just like, let's let her fly now, boys.
Right. Like, who knows what he said after the next game because they lost the next one. But for them to battle all the way back, to have that tape in the bank, like that's on tape, and they could have had it. They could have had it. It's 1-1 after 20 minutes in Florida Game 7. They're right there. And it's all for naught in the end. They lost.
Yeah, that's raw emotion though. Like this is why, I mean, you're seeing more and more access, and I guarantee you Gary Bettman and the league is loving this. Going, hey, this is what you want, because fans want that. Now, there'll be a few dipsticks that go, oh, I don't like that he was swearing. There's going to be a few of those. But that's language. That's raw emotion. Outside of that, like, I got goosebumps hearing it. And not only just because as a former player, but like I've been in rooms where there has been a speech from somebody special where, that's rare. I don't think McDavid talks like that. I don't think he conducts his business like that every game. That was raw emotion going, hey, we're this close and it's not good enough. Like I just thought it was really cool.
The series is about individual players though, right? Yeah. It's not about the Edmonton Oilers and the Cup
it's
run.
Not.
It's McDavid, Nylander,
Pasternak, all those guys. Yeah, it's like the full swing thing. Like there's a couple players each episode. But that I mean, it's an amazing piece of TV, that's for sure. And it really does put McDavid in a different light. It shows him in a very different capacity than anything we'd ever seen before. I mean, generally he's very reserved, very quiet, never opens up, never shows emotion, ever. And, that's as raw as it can get. And the idea that, it was available to them to come back and get it, and they didn't. It's just, it sucks for them, and it's obviously great for Florida, because I'm sure there was something on the other side of the Panthers' side, after Game 6. Or after Game 5, when they started to feel it slip away. I'm curious who was doing that with Florida. Was it Barkov? Was it Tkachuk? Who would be doing that?
Somebody must have.
Someone must have, right? Because the flip side of it, when it started swinging the other way, someone in Florida must have been losing their mind.
Yeah.
If not
going back for Game 7, as much as you always say, I like the way our team was prepared for blah, blah, they must have been crapping their pants.
Absolutely.
We're going to choke it away.
Yep. Wasn't Game 6 a blowout? Or was it Game
one
5?
Of them was. 5 or 6 was a blowout.
5 or 6 was like ugly.
They pulled the goalie and everything.
Yeah, I think it was 6, because, Bob was really shaky. Like, Bob was shaky in Game 4. It was, a breeze for Edmonton. They won big in Game 4. I think it was a battle in 5 in Florida, and then a blowout 6.
Game 6 it looked like 5-1 from what I can see. 5-1,
and quick. I think it was like 3-0 quick, and it was over. Yeah, and the place was going crazy.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean and now we're back starting a new season. Tomorrow in Prague, they're playing real games tomorrow, and as of early next week, it'll be go time. Like, we'll be on the air this time next week talking about Game 1 for the Leafs.
Yeah,
and they're playing a preseason game tonight in Detroit, and it sounds as if this is the last chance for anyone on the bubble, kind of battling for position. Pacioretty's playing tonight, Robertson's playing, Cowan's playing tonight.
It's a thin squad they're sending, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's on the road, and Stolarz, I think, will get the full start, which would mean Joseph Woll will start on Saturday. I would presume that's the case.
So he's going to get all of 4 periods, the guy that needs to get primed for the season.
He's going to play 4.5 periods.
4.5.
4.5.
4.5,
4.5. I'm not gonna go like Toronto on this, but I actually find that weird. I thought he would have played 3 games. I don't know.
He's also a
maybe
young guy.
He's so good. Yeah, maybe he's so good. He just said, "Give me 4 periods, and I'm going to let it rip."
I would have liked to see him. Yeah, I would like to see more games. Personally, just even I think I've told you guys this. When I was a goalie coach, I wanted my guy to play 4 games in the preseason, just for the preparation. Even if it's half games, a couple half games and then 1 full or something like that, or 2 periods, and like just going through the process, seeing shots and really kind of getting into a groove. Again, these guys are all in elite shape. It's more of they do a lot of training off the ice. Now it's with the goaltender coach one-on-one. I mean, they must feel that 1.5 games is fine for Joseph Woll. My worry is that what if they have an off night, or what if he has an off night? What if they lose or they win 6-5 or something, and it's not that sharp, right? And then you're right back at it, right? It's just you don't get enough leeway to have an off night or a bumpy road here or there. Like that's the way I kind of would like them to work through some of the kinks before you get to regular season.
Agreed, and even Stolarz he hasn't played it much more. Like he'll play tonight. I think he did the same thing. He played a couple of periods.
Yeah.
They played Hill to be a full game, then sent him down. They've played Matt Murray at times, and I honestly don't know the reasoning behind that. Obviously, they're getting a lot of time in with their goaltending coach and the consultants, and they're putting in work. But game action for goaltenders can and will be different. The same thing, I guess, applies for Matthews, who's not playing tonight. I'm sure he'll play Saturday. He's only played once. Willie's played, once in a period or something like that. Like, these guys, their best players have not really played a ton. Yeah, that's consistent with what we've been talking about all week. Like, if you're going to take a page out of the NFL's book, that means maybe it will be sloppy, the first few weeks. And it generally is anyway. Usually early in the season, it's a lot of high-flying action and breakdowns and lead changes and blown checks and blown plays and opportunities. And it can generally be the most entertaining hockey you can find because you just get guys flying out of the gate and they're running on adrenaline. And I would assume that we'll probably see that come next week. But, Leafs in Detroit tonight. And even you get a look at Detroit, who I haven't seen their lineup yet, but I'm sure they're going to play their big boys probably tonight and not send them to Toronto on Saturday.
But Detroit has 3 games in 3 nights because I'm doing the game tomorrow.
They're playing Ottawa tomorrow, right?
And then they're
in
back
Detroit.
in. So I think you almost have a big camp in Detroit. Actually, I got sent the potential roster, but it's just, you know what, if you look at it, this is what's weird. You got 3 games in 3 nights, so it's an evaluation process right before you get going. Well, you're going to have 2 full teams or ice. Guys will play 2 out of the 3, I would imagine. But it is a bit weird, like when you're just lumping all these games together, and injuries, inconsistencies, there's all this type of stuff, and now you got to cut right on Sunday. You get down to it to, hey, we're getting ready for Wednesday or Thursday, whenever Detroit's first game
Practice
is.
Monday, full team.
Exactly.
Yep. Go time.
How many you said there's going to be just some decision? Like, what do you think they're making decisions on tonight, Hayes?
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, I will say this: Timothy Liljegren's plan. Liljegren, I don't think is guaranteed to play.
I don't either.
Like that
Really?
doesn't sound like he's guaranteed to play, and that would be a Berube scenario. And I'm not surprised. I mean, Liljegren is a guy who's been pretty good during the regular season. I'm not sure Berube is comfortable with a third pairing guy that's not physical and gets pushed off pucks, and so Liljegren is going to be, I think, have to show something tonight. I would guess Pacioretty, again, it's just about looking like himself. Look like yourself, skate, be comfortable, kill some penalties. You're probably on the team. Nick Robertson, probably the same thing. I don't know what Cowan could possibly do to make it, just with all these other players and all these other options. But another thing that came out of practice today, again, with the guys who didn't go, is William Nylander's just on the wing today. Like nothing up the middle of the ice. Like he's just playing right wing with Tavares and Max Domi. So it's over, right? The long-awaited dream of Willie playing up the middle of the ice is
There was
dead
like
again.
a Gino Retta, that's hockey, like back to the middle segment, and it was like we blew this thing up, and it lasted like 2 days.
I think the guy on the left was on that segment.
Oh, I was in there firing takes.
Yelling and screaming.
Gino and I were face to face, like Tony La Russa and Angel Hernandez, yelling about where he's going to play. And sure enough, he's on right wing.
Yeah.
So,
but it was just
there you
funny
go.
how it was like there was the talk where it was like I went to Chief and I said, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this long term. And they went, yeah, that's right. That's what we're doing.
Sounds
and
great.
it sounds like one of them just went to the other one. They're like, I hate this. And the other one was like, I hate watching it too. And then they just said, we're not doing this
We're not
anymore.
doing it. We're going to Muskoka, and you're a right winger. Right? Like they just rolled into Gravenhurst or whatever and said, screw it, man. Willie, you're playing the right side.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's going to be it. I think it's Nyes, Matthews, and Marner. It sounds like they'll start Domi, Tavares, and Nylander, and they got to figure out the rest. And Camp will be a part of that. Maybe Pontus Holmberg plays up the middle of the ice. Does Lorentz make the team as the fourth-line center, and Holmberg plays on the wing or somewhere else? Those are the question marks. All right, Struddy coming up later in the hour. Luke Wilson and Al's brother coming up. It's a Thursday. I have the list, and it is a 10-pack.
Wow.
You called it. It's a
Yep.
10-pack. All right? The pressure, it's players and coaches specifically, okay? I took management out of it. Players and coaches that have the most pressure on themselves to help their teams meet expectations. Okay, so there's all these different expectations.
Expectations / get to certain points.
Yes, exactly. Because clearly, like someone on the Oilers has a different expectation than someone on the Habs. You know
Right,
what I
that's
mean?
right.
But
That's
that doesn't
fair.
mean there isn't pressure on both. So you're going to have to kind of just come along for the ride with
Filter
me, all right?
through it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll get to that in about an hour. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Jason Strudwick later in the hour. Luke Wilson, Al's brother, coming up Thursday night or tonight. Bucks, Falcons on TSN. See Patrik Laine speak with the media.
Yeah, I
God
like his
bless him.
comments.
God bless him.
Yeah, said, hey, everyone leave Cedric Pare alone. It's a hockey play. I tried to move it. You know, he kind of blamed himself in a way. And
Yeah, he said, you know what? I kind of opened myself up, and he wasn't trying to hurt me. It's like, thank you for putting some common sense into that. And, which there's not a lot of in professional sports. There's a lot of young, just a grown-ass man comment. It's like,
Yeah.
I kind of put myself in a bad spot. It's not like he was getting screwed over. Like, he's the one, like, it's just everyone is always the victim. It's like, oh, me. He's like, I kind of screwed up there, and it was an unfortunate play, but, like, that's what happens when you put yourself in that position.
Yeah.
It's just a grown-ass man comment. I got a ton of time for that. I got a ton of time for it.
I agree. I thought he handled it well because if he would have come out and said I didn't like the play and I'm trying to settle it, because
those plays
all that
don't
would do is
belong in hockey.
it would add gasoline to the fire because that's what we'd be talking about. Sharp comments from Laine, he's pissed and all that. You're saying it's a hockey play. I agree. I like this comments. It sucks still. Again, it still sucks. I thought it was a penalty, all of that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that can be done about it. Pare's playing tonight, I saw. He's going to get another peek, and he'll end up going down to the minors. But, Laine, it's going to be a couple months, and he'll be back. Like, that looked awful. Like,
when you slow it down like that,
see
the angle's
knee,
terrible.
the knee
man.
buckle. Oh, you feel for him. But you know what? I thought I agree 100% with you, O. I thought he handled it very well because if he didn't have comments, if his comments were sharper or more angry, then all it does is incite people, right? It'll incite the fan base. It just puts gasoline on a fire. That's
Right, and they've already been going crazy.
Exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
Pare, I guess, had to delete all his social media and everything because it was just getting so stupid.
Well, people get worked up.
Habs fans are, so worked up. And, I think that's an appropriate way to look at it. It doesn't mean you have to be happy. It doesn't mean Pare was perfect in that or completely innocent. But what he said is right. It's a really fast game, and Laine was flying, and he tried to basically juke him out of the way and moved inside, and he took a knee, and it was gruesome. And he decided to go against surgery. He's going to rehab it. He's going to build up his strength, and he's going to get back on the ice. And hopefully it works out really well for him. But that could have gone either way because there have been players like we had Pronger on yesterday, who spoke about just. Still holding a grudge, and Todd Gale holding a grudge. There are certain players wired a certain way that would just hold the grudge on that forever.
Absolutely.
Like you hurt, I got
Not
hurt
many
because
left,
of you.
but there are still some players that would do it.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. Yeah. There's no way of you explaining it other than me hating you because I'm injured now and I got to rehab and all this kind of stuff, and you're going to pay a price for it.
Yeah,
it's that simple.
I agree.
Right? Yeah. Like a hockey player, otherwise, you are going to pay a price when I return. And I don't think that's going to happen because I don't know if Pare will ever play Laine again, and that's not the way Laine is wired. But it was good to hear him speak on that today. Struddy on that more later this hour. You guys see the front page of the Toronto Sun today with Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro and.
What was the head?
There it
is.
Oh
my God!
Wieners and losers.
Oh no!
They hit a home run with Looney hot dogs this year, but that's it. Jay's brass grilled about pathetic season, that's
tough.
That's
tough,
too
much.
man.
It's too
much.
Now
That's what the Sun does, right? It's tabloids and listen. If I'm walking by, I don't know how many Toronto Sun newspaper boxes are still in the city.
Wieners and losers.
But that's one. If it's up on the front page, like remember as a kid, they'd be all over the city, man. They'd be everywhere. You'd stop by it. That's one I'm probably throwing a buck in. $1.50. I'm probably buying that, saying I got to see what's going on here. Like that is harsh.
That's tough. That's too much.
That's over the top. But listen, it is I think what that is doing is speaking to where the city is right now with this whole organization with these two guys. Shapiro and Atkins in general. It's very difficult to find support. There's a more sensible probably approach to it. And again, this is about selling papers and clickbait and getting people paying attention to it. And it certainly achieved that goal. But it also speaks to what was kind of a consistent theme all year. Like, hey, loony dogs. Hey, pay a loony, you get a hot dog. It's like that was kind of the theme of this season. What's happening down at the Dome? If you got down there, you see the new renovations, you get yourself a loony hot dog, and that's about it because they're going to lose 74 games.
I mentioned that, Hayes, right at the beginning of the season when they were garbage. I was like, do you know how the Calgary Flames are talking? Like, by the time they get into the new building, they want to be moving and shaking. Yeah. That's what surprised me about, like, and it's not like, I'm sure Ross and Mark understood what they were getting into this year because we had Steve Phillips on, and we had who did we have on at the beginning of the season? That it was one of the MLB insiders. He's like, there were some strange moves here for the Jays, and they're just going to be below average. So everybody knew it was coming with all the renovations and everybody fired up about how did you field that team going into that? Like to show off your new shiny toy. That's what I find bizarre.
Yeah. That's a valid point because
generally it's like, everyone wants to be moving and shaking when they're putting people in to see the shiny new toy. And they threw out those players on the field, and it's like, hang on a second. I said it after the first 10 games. I'm like, you have all these new seats and all these new things and bars to watch guys hit squibblers to second base? Mm-hmm. That's bizarre stuff, man.
Bizarre marketing. It is because, and they effectively wasted, they did great numbers. They're top 10 in attendance, and they've been that for a long, long time. And last year they did really well. They made the playoffs, but also that was the real opening of the new dome, so to speak. This year was a lot more corporate, more the 100 level and stuff like that. Last year was when the new dimensions were presented, and it looked and felt very different. And I think a lot of people were buzzing about going down to check it out. And I think there was some carryover on this year. That's done now. Like
nobody cares.
No, exactly. Like you can't sell next year, hey, come on down and check out the new renos. You have like a year or two to hit that. Like that marketing component, you got about 2 years tops. Now it's played. So now you actually have to sell the club. Like you got to sell the players and the ability to win. And that is tough to dig out of. Again, it's the front page of the Sun. It's a tabloid. It's about getting people to pay attention and talk about it in a clickbait. But it does speak to kind of where those two are at right now in the marketplace. And that is very difficult to dig yourself out of. Like if you become a punchline, that's tough.
It is, but the stuff their faces in a wiener. show it again,
Wieners
please. I'm sorry.
And losers.
Like it's just tough. Like it is tough. Like that, regardless, and like that's tough.
And losers.
Guys, I honestly like having fun, and I usually think that stuff's
it's
kind of
outrageous.
I think it's outrageous, and
I think it's too much.
Like
I think it's too much.
Holding the Blue Jay flag.
But you know what? Like you just said, Brian.
Like imagine going through the dynamic of coming up with that Photoshop. Like, make sure you put Ross and Mark's face inside the wiener, and don't forget Ross has to be holding the Blue Jay flag. It's
right.
Just,
put the glasses on him,
and Mark has to hold the dog. Who gets the hot dog? Who gets the flag? That was a 10 a.m. meeting yesterday.
Yeah, it's just tough. But we are talking about it, and regardless of how it's presented to the public, people are pissed, and they should be. They didn't like that. What were they? 14 games under 500 or something ridiculous.
74 wins.
Like, it's not good enough.
It was a terrible season. There's no dancing around that. It's a terrible year. But that front page is something else, man. That one is.
I don't mean to laugh, but it's just that's tough. Like, you know what? Like, there has been some headlines throughout the years. We see it. New York Post has some and all that.
Yeah.
But some of I feel like, I don't know, in the lean years of the Leafs, there's been probably some headlines.
Oh, yeah. Not? You could go back and find a bunch of them. Like, there would have been Phil Kessel ones.
Yeah.
There would have been definitely Kessel ones. Yeah. And like Marner's faced it. Everyone, like if you're in the city long enough, you're probably going to get that treatment at some point. Unfortunately, you're probably going to be on the wrong side of it. what you hope for is that it spins the other way, and then you get the great cover, But that one hurts for Mark and Ross. There's no doubting that. All right, Luke Wilson will join us. I've got my list, Hazy's list. Hazy be listing at about 5:30. Pressure list. We're looking at players and coaches throughout the country going into a new NHL season. And we'll also get back into the McDavid clip on Amazon Prime, and we'll get Struddy's take on it. Jason Strudwick coming up on the eve of a new season. We'll catch up with Struddy next. All right, Jason Strudwick will join us here in a moment. I'm sure Struddy threw some big hits in the preseason, some big hits during the regular season, and occasionally he might have had to fight for that, but I'm sure not like he would in this era because it happened again last night in that Tampa game. Hedman gets hit with a brilliant, clean hit, shoulder right to the chest, and Kucherov goes, nope, not having it. Someone's going to have to pay a price. Like, it's just a great hit, and Kucherov immediately reacts. And I understand it's Hedman, and Hedman's the man now. He's the captain, and Stamkos is gone. But we talked about that yesterday with Pronger. Like, it's just a great open ice hit. Hedman's totally fine. Why does anyone have to fight in a situation like that?
That's the thing. That's the one thing. I understand protecting your teammates, and we love talking about fighting and stuff, kind of creeping back and some more intensity. But it's a contact sport.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the only way to stop that is if you have some kind of massive penalty if somebody grabs him after and he has to fight. It's like clean hits. You shouldn't have to fight.
Well,
you shouldn't have to get your brains beat in for a clean hit.
And that Geeky, he's lucky he doesn't get 10 games, right? But he got one game. He came off the bench and went after the kid later, right? Mm-hmm. And I think he got 1 game suspension for going after him. But, I was watching that game and got a little contentious. There's no love lost between those two teams.
Yeah, but it's crazy, Noodles, how it was like the fighting kind of went out, but then it was like soon as there was a big hit, somebody's got to be a hero. It's like, take a number and hit one of their guys. Why does it have to be a fight? I've never understood it.
Yeah, and then again, this is the separation between preseason, regular season, and then in the playoffs. There's no fighting in the playoffs with big hits, yet there's the most hits. It's incredibly physical in the playoffs, and no one fights. It's so weird, the sport. It's just a strange sport where things change, and depending on what's happening and who you hit and who you are, and that's a part of it too. Who do you think you are to do that? How dare you do that to Victor Hedman? Here's our buddy Jason Strudwick. What's happening, Struddy?
Oh, that was a massive hit. That was a little man blowing up a massive man. I can't believe how he got him off his feet.
I know. It was like Andre the Giant going down in WrestleMania 3. It was a big one, but that's what we're seeing now, man, is you throw a big hit, especially if it's on a key piece, you almost have to fight. It's mandatory you fight now.
Yeah, you think that it was always the case? I think it's always been around like that. I don't know that it's just new now, Do you feel like it's new?
I don't know. I mean, a clean hit?
You know what it is, Struddy? It's more pronounced now. It's more pronounced where back in, we'll call it 15, 20 years ago, there was fights around these hits, because there was, we'll call it stage fights. There were tough guys on each team. So, a hit like that might have been overshadowed because there might have been a fight in the game already. But now fights just rarely happen unless there's something that provokes it where, there was, we call it stage fighting or whatever. There were two tough guys that would fight. There would already be a fight in the game and a hit like that would happen. But now that fighting's gone, so when something like this does happen, it does provoke a fight. I just think it's a different type of provocation of a fight where, I don't even know it's a word, provocation of a fight.
Provocation,
you know what I mean.
There you go.
There you go. But you know where I'm at. That's my point.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I guess my thing on it, Struddy, is it's one, like if a guy used to be running around, that's when it was like someone's going to go over to him and say, you got to stop. If you're running around, if you throw an awful hit, headshot, elbow, yes, but clean shoulder to chest and the guy just gets up and continues to skate. I don't remember that back in the day, having a fight after that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there was, because you don't want your best players to be abused, right, or hit at all, right? And as a guy like I try to protect my teammates, and whether it's clean or not, I was coming, it's just because I want my top guys to feel very comfortable when they're on the ice. I remember one night I was with Vancouver, and we had a young guy named Bill McCult, playing against the Rangers in New York, and he ran Wayne Gretzky. And Wayne was on the other team. I almost jumped Bill McCult to beat him up. I'm like, you don't hit Wayne Gretzky. Like, he was fighting everybody. But it's like, you're still your top guys. I always wanted them to feel comfortable and know that we had their back. So I don't think it's changed as much as people think it has.
Okay.
Because to me, it didn't matter, clean or dirty. I'm coming for you. I was coming to get you one, or try to at least get close. Maybe yell from the bench if you're a really good player.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to get caught out there on a long change or something. Yeah. But maybe yell and scream. I mean, come on.
Oh, that's a third liner. I got to get off.
Right. Exactly.
But Strutty, let me ask you this: did a coach ever say to you, like, did you ever kind of brush something off and say, maybe I'm not going to get that guy? And did anyone ever go up to you saying, hey, like, what do you think you're doing? That guy did that, and you didn't even respond, Strutty?
I don't think so, but listen, it took me a while to understand, my role, and then I wanted my teammates to feel safe. So I couldn't have lived with myself if I felt that one of my teammates was getting abused, and I didn't go over and at least give the guy a dirty look, at least maybe text him something mean, and so I was disappointed when guys on my team who I thought were, gritty, wouldn't at least do that to make their teammates feel comfortable. And so, no, I took a lot of pride in that. No one ever has to ask me to do it. I remember.
No, what I'm asking is, was there ever times where you didn't do it and someone went up to you and said, "Hey, man, come on, like you were supposed to at least respond for us"? That never happened. It's probably because you responded enough times.
Yeah, and I knew that was my job. I mean, if I didn't do it, I was going to be, dominating in the Hungarian triple third league, right? So, but I think I had one time where a coach put me out to fight that I remember in the NHL. I was a D-man. All of a sudden, he's like, Strutty, left wing. I look up at the right wing, and I'm like, oh, boy, better put the old tie down on and jump out. I went, and sure enough, we fought. And I didn't like that. Because I didn't feel that I needed to be told. If there was an issue, I would deal with it in my way and my time. And I didn't appreciate that, right? And I didn't like that one. But what are you going to do? The guy puts you out there, that's your job. And you make it look good and hope you don't get beat up too bad.
Well, you're describing, Strutty, kind of the code, or maybe the unwritten code back in the day. I remember playing in St. Louis. We had Tyson Nash, the Rash, and he went after Yzerman. And, Kelly Chase and Tony Twist, they gave him a stern talking to on our bench going, hey, you realize, because I think Joey Kosher leaned over and said, is that how we're going to do it here? Because guess who's fair game? Brett Hull and Pierre Turgeon and Pavel Demitra. Right. So the guys are like, hey, you better back it up or else, because they say all hell's going to break loose. Because top players, it seemed like we're off limits. And that was kind of the unwritten law. And if you went after a top player, the other team's top player was kind of fair game too. And that kind of diffused the situation. But Nasher was new in the league, and he didn't matter. He was going after Yzerman, and then all hell broke loose. And Chaser and Tony Twist on our team are giving him heck in between the periods, saying, hey, smarten up here because we're going to have the bloodbath on our hands.
Yeah, well, you don't want to have to clean up other guys' messes all the time, right? And that's what I got frustrated. Like it's 5 minutes left, and your top players are chirping the other team's tough guy, saying he's brutal. Well, who do you think has to clean up that mess in aisle 7? It's not, it's not the top players. It's old Uncle Strutty is all of a sudden double shifting, and you're like, oh, please, God, I hope our shifts don't line up together, right?
Right. And
that's the hard part. So, those days are now gone. But, and I remember getting into it with Bertuzzi because he was chirping one of the tough guys on another team, and I had to fight that guy. And let's say we won 5-1. And I had a great game. I was +1, so I'm like, I want to celebrate that. I don't want to have to fight this guy at the end of the game and maybe get beat up just to protect you. You know what I mean? And so he got it after that. And because there's some respect factor out there as far as that goes. Because when the game's 5-1, no one wants. I didn't want to fight. It's over. I've already got my eye on the dance floor for later on.
With Jason Strudwick. Positive vibes out in Edmonton. How are we feeling here, Strud? It seems like everyone is committed to them being the best team in the league, or the team that's facing cup or bust realities more than anyone else. Is that the kind of mojo in Edmonton at this point, or what?
Yeah, I think that there's going to be some growing pains. There's a lot of new faces on this team. And, specifically the second line, I think this is probably the most talent that to start the season that Leon has on his line. Unless, of course, he's playing with McDavid. But with Skinner and Arvidsson, and that's going to take a little time to figure that out. And, O could speak to it a little bit better than I, but, I think Arvidsson looks pretty comfortable beside Draisaitl. I think for Skinner, he's got to figure out how to tick beside Leon. Because Leon, he is the guy on that line, and you got to figure out how to kind of support him, get the puck to him, and get it back from him and all that. So then on the back end, whether you like Cece or not, he was a pretty steady influence on the Oilers' D. Darnay gone to Vancouver. Broberg signed an offer sheet. So that's 3 of your top 7 guys are gone. Now they're replacing him with, players that I would view more as third pairing players. Now you can have a lot of them, but they don't. 3 third pairing doesn't add up to 1 second pairing guy. You know what I mean? So can Emerson take that spot? Dermott, a guy there, he's looking pretty decent, but he's on a PTO. So is he a fixture beside Darnell Nurse? Josh Brown, I think, we know what he's like. He's probably a 6'7", and then who I'm missing? Stetcher. So, I think that is a concern. So a lot of new faces on the back end, and that affects the penalty kill. The power play isn't killed, but the penalty kill is affected. So I think Nalbach's really going to have to coach this team to come together quickly to find their mojo.
Struddy, has McJesus just vaulted up to a new level with his leadership tactics, the yelling and swearing with the Amazon thing coming out? Like, everyone's just got to be like, not only is he the greatest player in the world, like, he cares a lot and he desperately wants to bring a championship here. Like, that must just make people love the guy even more.
But we've all had, where you come in like, hey, boys, we got to do better. And then you have, like what we saw there from Connor, where it's like shrill, screaming, right? Like you could tell it was so raw. And, I appreciated seeing that because you don't really see that from Connor. You can see in his eyes when he's playing and his intensity, but we don't usually, we don't get access to that type of raw emotion from him unless it's something like Amazon. And he said, if they're going to tape it, show it, because I think they could have maybe, withdrawn it, but he's like, if you taped it, show it, put it on. So it's going to be on there, and I think this is massive for the game. You look at that drive to survive, the golf one, the receivers, the quarterback one. I mean, those things are so cool and gives you a look behind the scenes, and I really think this is a really good thing for hockey. And I know there's been some other ones, but it feels like there's a lot of top players that are doing it, and I think this could be really big for the league. And having Connor embrace it as one of the premier players in the league, I think that's a positive step for the league, man.
I know we got to get going here, Struddy, but do you want to give a quick update on the shelves? Sounds like you're pretty proud that you might have moved them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Am I Gordon Gecko? I might be. I moved them.
Well, for
$30,
what?
Full price, buddy. There was never a doubt. Full price. I just had autographed them. Lisa and I met in the Coliseum Steak and Pizza parking lot on the north side of Edmonton and did the exchange, and thrilled. Lisa was happy. I was happy. I think a hug kind of consummated the sale.
Wow.
So guys, I can get it done. A lot of hard times. It took 3 months, but I got it done.
There you go. 3 months.
Was the hug
$30.
agreed on after she put eyes on you, Strud? She's like, I got to sneak one in here with this one.
I think the shelves were $1. The hug was $29.
$29 hug. I love it. In a pizza shop parking lot somewhere in Edmonton.
Christ
What
almighty.
a setup. That's an Amazon show.
Yeah,
Struddy
exactly.
selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah. And
my
creeping
buddies are all
people
over
out.
me.
Yeah.
They're
they should
all
be.
over me. They're like, basically, someone paid $30 for a meet and greet with you, is what they're telling me.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, no, it was $29 and then the $1 for the shelves.
And you spent $28 in gas to drive there.
I know.
So there you go.
Yeah.
I know it was.
Well, you're going to get
should've taken
tricked
the
one
bus.
day with some sexy voice is going to be like, I'll see you at the pizza shop, and some monster with a big beard and snot and drool coming out of his face is going to jump out of the car. So watch out for that one.
Well, I got nothing to sell. I've got nothing to sell right now, guys. So I'm in the market for something to buy to sell it. That's kind of, I like to always have a little action on the side.
I like it, man. Yeah, you're flipping products, right? It's like a house flipper. He's flipping IKEA products. It's outstanding. All right, Struddy, we'll do it again soon. Thank you, buddy.
Okay, boys. Looking forward to the start. We'll talk to you guys later.
You got it. Jason Strudwick of the Got Your Back podcast Yeah, Strutty's he's got a little empire online, man. He's moving a lot of weight.
I don't know, man.
A lot of weight online.
Chloroform him and stuff him in the car, and we won't ever hear from him again. It's so,
I know.
I don't like those. That's scary stuff.
$30,
that stuff.
you're going to meet someone in a parking lot. Like, no chance.
No,
Dude,
thank you.
no
I'm
kidding. For $7,000, I would bring security. Like, I'd bring somebody in another car to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$30. I'm not leaving my house for anything for $30.
Crazy behavior.
Yeah.
All right, hour 2 coming up. The pressure list will be coming up at 5:30, and Luke Wilson and Al's brother coming up. Hayes and Bro have to have a hot start. Week 5 tonight. We'll start teeing that up, and we'll do it next.